Hello everyone, and welcome back to today's tutorial. You requested and now you shall receive. Today is all about evergreen trees and how I paint them. They're all a bit similar but ever so slightly different, so I'm excited to share and have a more real-time tutorial to show you the process. And you can create your own style of trees and manipulate them how you want to create different scenes, just like you see here in these various paintings. In this one I added gouache, experiment and have fun, and I hope you take something away. The brush that I use for this tutorial is a size 2 Velvet Touch Long Round and some water. I always spray my paper down before I lay down a tree. And the colors of choice are Hooker's Green, and to mute it down to get it a bit less vibrant, I use some Burnt Umber. You can use any greens that you want. A beautiful hue is using purple in your greens. You can use sepia. I've been loving sepia. Of course, browns. It's really up to you. So getting started with this first tree, as you can see, I am making these motions, swooshing motions, where I am dabbing the branches but connecting them to the trunk of the tree. And as I make one swoop, I will then connect more swoops, if you will, to that one, and then just build it out. I say swoops, but I don't know what else you would call what I'm doing. Anyway, if you can think of some better verbiage, let me know in the comments below, but we'll see how I can get through this video. But I do hope that the actual footage explains it itself and enough for you to understand what I'm doing, and I do try to slow it down so you can see. I added a little bit of trunks there, or not trunks, but some more branches without any leaves on them. Now, the second tree is quite similar to the first tree. However, I am a bit quicker this time with my swooping, and you'll see that I kind of will go back and forth, and then I will just focus on one side. So it really just depends on how I'm feeling, but it's another fun way to paint trees a bit faster and to get some really interesting looking branches. And as I get lower or to the base of the tree, I make the swooping motions, I extend them to make them longer. And I do have lots of space in there. I want to emphasize that the tree is a dense tree, but not so dense that you can't see through it. And don't forget that I am spraying my paper with one spray before I lay down a tree. And that is to help the paint catch the little droplets and spread out for me and do the work so I don't have to. Now this tree is a bit different because now I'm using the tip and the side of my brush where I am squishing it down. So I squish the paint down a little bit, and then I take the tip and I drag it out to the shape of the branch that I want. And you can also use the fine tip of your brush to create little branches that come out of the top, the side, the bottom. Really, it's up to you. But this tree is so easy and so much fun, and I love this style of tree. And I really should paint this tree a bit more. I always forget to paint this style of tree. I tend to focus on the two to the left, and I think that's just because I am lazy and I get into a habit. This next tree I used to paint all the time. So when I first started learning trees, this is the style of tree that I focused on. But it also makes sense because this is the style of tree that I have in my own backyard. The branches always go up and they're quite stiff and they get quite dense in areas. So you'll see me dropping in some more paint and having the paint a bit more pigmented and to create shadow, which is a great way to have it naturally blend. As while it's still wet, you can drop in some darker values of paint or even a different hue. Really, it's up to you. And as I get to the bottom part of the tree, I extend it out a little bit more. But you can see that I don't have too much paint on my brush. Now, I can't hold that much paint on this type of brush, and that works in my favor because I don't want globs of paint for my trees, because I really love a dry brush and feathered out effect. And it's hard to do that if you have, say, a thicker brush, or you have too much water on your brush and it globs out. So for this tree, this would be number 5, I believe. I take a little bit of the side of the brush, but I actually take the branches and I push them out with an ever so slight curve. And then I go in and do a swishing back and forth motion. But then I also use the tip. So really I kind of go back and forth with most of my trees between using the side and then the tip of the tree. Now this one got away from me a little bit because I found that majority of the tree was equal on both sides, as far as it started to look more like a blob and not a tree. I didn't feel that there was too much like contrast, if you will, between the branches and length on either side. But that's okay, you will find this out in nature. But when it comes to my paintings, I try to not do that, but here's a perfect example. But you can fix this by making the bottom part of your tree longer, or you can focus on extending some of the limbs in the middle. It's up to you. And if you're not into painting trunks, then you don't have to. You can easily extend those branches to the floor. Now, this 6th tree is similar to the 3rd tree that we painted. However, this one is a bit different in the sense that I make the branches that are swooping down a bit equal on either side. Now, I felt that I could get away with that in this tree because of how the branches are laying down versus side to side like the previous tree. But really, it's up to you and what you want to do. But this tree, I love to paint for holiday cards. It's a bit more whimsical. It's a bit more fun. So that is definitely something that I do. And this is another great tree to lay snow down on as well. Another fun little tip is, as you are painting your tree, if you add just a bit more water and drop in some white paint, watercolor paint, you'll get this really beautiful like blooming effect, and it creates a really interesting snowy tree. The next set of trees, there are 4 of them. They are pretty much the same as the trees that I already painted, but they are larger. And I try to space the branches out to give a bit, to make it have a bit more definition. There are many trees out there that are evergreen trees or pine trees or cedar or whatever it is that will have lots of gaps in their in the areas, either to the top or the middle, and of course definitely towards the bottom. Some trees you can even stop right here and it would be an accurate depiction of a tree. So it's really up to you, but I definitely encourage you, if you can, to get out there and study your local trees and to just study and see how they are shaped. It's really interesting and fascinating, and it's a great way to really connect with your painting and your subject that you're choosing to paint and focus on. And as you all know how much I love the pine tree, and I always say pine tree because I have a lot of pine trees in my area. I am obsessed with cedar, but we just don't have as many in my area. But yeah, evergreen trees in general are my favorite subject to paint, and it took me a while to get to a style that I was happy with. So if you're struggling with pine trees or evergreen trees, this style of tree that you would find in the woods, then I hear you. And all I can say is to continue to show up and practice these trees. Practice your paint to water ratio, practice the richness of your pigments, and see what happens. Practice dry brushing, practice wet on wet, practice, just continue to show up. If painting trees is something that you really want to do, I just really ultimately just don't give up, just keep painting. That's all I can say, because it took me a long time to get the kind of tree that I wanted to paint and see in my paintings. I've been listening to some art podcasts, and it's been really fun to connect with artists out there, who say to obsess over whatever it is that you're wanting to learn and to grow in. And I can definitely identify with that, because I obsess to a level of probably unhealthy habits. And if I want to learn something or focus on something or get better at something, then I pour all of my energy and being into whatever that is. So if you haven't done that, maybe try experimenting with that. That does seem to be a theme with artists out there, or anybody really who wants to get better at something, is it's their sole focus. And for me, that definitely at one point in time was trees. And eventually you get really good at them. And you get more developed. So I say the more you show up, the better you'll get. I hope that slowing down this footage or not editing it so much, you'll be able to see how I do my brush strokes, and in real time the actual time it takes for me to paint a tree, and how often I'm pulling from the paint as well. I'm so happy that I was able to share this video with you, and I've received so many comments about how hard trees are, but just know that as you continue to paint them, that you will get better. I promise you will. And that's whatever subject that you want to get better at. So, and I speak to me as well regarding other subjects. So like for animals, for instance, those are very challenging for me, but that's how it goes, You just gotta keep showing up and keep practicing, and eventually, one day, it will click and you'll get it and you'll be really happy. But there we have it. That's 10 trees for you, and I hope this was a great video and that you are able to take away something. But let me know which tree is your favorite. Let me know in the comments below. If you found value in this video, please be sure to like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye, everyone.